welcome. Today, we're checking out some of the main ideas from the latest Thinking in Public, which is issue #6.
Right?
It's got a bunch of interesting AI updates, so if you're curious about what's happening in the field, well, there should definitely be something here for you.
Yeah, there's quite a mix this time.
You shared this issue with us, and our plan is basically to just chat through some of the key takeaways.
That's good.
We'll be looking at how Claude, seems to show certain values in conversations. Also, some cool new ways it can connect with other apps.
Some integrations, yeah.
Exactly. And there's this simple setting that can really change how an AI responds to prompts temperature.
Oh, yeah, that's a crucial one.
And finally, the latest on AI video generation with Kling 2.0.
Mm-hmm. Big leaps there.
So let's start with this idea of AI and values. Anthropic's report.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. Anthropic actually looked into what kind of values their AI model, Claude, demonstrates when people are, using it day to day.
Right.
This wasn't about some, abstract ethical framework they tried to hard code in. It was more about seeing what actually comes through in, a whole lot of real conversations.
Okay.
They analyzed a huge number of anonymous chats to really get a sense of this.
A huge number, what was it, 700,000 chats?
That's right, 700,000. And then they filtered out the purely factual question and answer type stuff.
Gotcha.
Which left them with around 308,000 conversations
Right.
to analyze for these underlying values.
Okay, so what did they find? What were the main values showing up?
Well, they boiled it down to 5 key areas. The biggest one, coming in about 31%, was what they called practical values.
Practical? Like what?
Things like being efficient, using resources well, getting stuff done, basically.
Okay, makes sense.
Then next up, around 22% were epistemic values.
Epistemic meaning.
Yeah, related to knowledge. So critical thinking, aiming for accurate information, understanding things correctly. After that, social values, community ties, how society works, that sort of thing. That was about 21%. Pretty close.
Uh-huh.
Then you had protective values, thinking about ethics, safety, harm reduction. That came in around 14%.
Okay, still significant.
Yeah. And finally, personal values, stuff like self-improvement, creativity, personal growth. That was about 11%.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that practical values were number one. Makes you wonder, is that because of how people use Claude, or is it something baked into the AI itself?
That's a really good question. The report touches on that ambiguity. Is it reflecting the tasks or the training? Probably a bit of both,
Yeah, probably. But it wasn't just a static list, was it? Didn't the values kind of shift depending on the conversation topic?
Exactly. And that's where it gets really fascinating, I think.
Okay.
So if someone was asking Claude for advice on, say, a relationship problem,
Right.
the values that surfaced most strongly were things like healthy boundaries, mutual respect, values aligned with good social interaction.
Makes sense.
But if the chat switched to history,
Uh-huh.
then the focus shifted. It became more about those epistemic values, getting the historical facts right, academic rigor, that sort of thing.
Okay.
And another example. If someone needed tech support or help with coding,
Yeah.
then those practical values really came to the fore. Technical quality, writing clean code, efficiency. It shows Claude seems to adapt its value emphasis based on the context.
That's pretty sophisticated, actually, not just applying the same filter to everything. What about when users brought up their own values? How did Claude react then?
They looked at that too.
Yeah.
And in a pretty decent chunk of the chats, about 28%, Claude was strongly supportive of the user's stated values, just agree to reinforce them.
Okay.
In maybe 6 or 7% of cases, it would sort of reframe the value, maybe offers a slightly different perspective on it.
Interesting.
And importantly, in about 3% of interactions, Claude actually disagreed with the user's values.
Oh, when would that happen?
Mostly when the requests were potentially harmful or unethical.
Ah, okay. That's reassuring, actually. You'd hope it would push back then.
Exactly. You definitely want that safety rail in place.
Yeah. It really feels like this kind of research, looking at values in the wild, is super important for, making sure AI aligns with what we actually care about.
Absolutely. And the researchers themselves pointed this out. What we intend an AI to value versus what it actually demonstrates in practice. Those aren't always the same thing.
Right.
Studies like this help bridge that gap or at least understand it better.
Definitely. Okay, so switching gears a bit, you mentioned integrations earlier. Claude connecting with other tools.
Yeah, the new integrations feature. This looks like it could be a pretty big deal for how people actually use Claude in their workflow.
So what's the main idea? How does it work?
Well, the core concept is that Claude can now interact directly with other apps and data sources. It's not just copy-pasting anymore.
Okay.
It's got much better search capabilities now. It can search the web, obviously, but also your connected apps like Google Workspace, Drive, Gmail, Calendar, and it can apparently search across these for up to 45 minutes for a single task.
Wow, 45 minutes. That's quite a deep dive.
Yeah, and then it can take what it finds and generate reports, summaries, whatever you need, and it includes citations back to the sources it used.
That sounds incredibly useful, especially the citations part and the web search itself that's more widely available now.
That's right. They mentioned it's rolled out globally for all paid Claude users.
Good to know. And what's making this connection possible? There was some technical term.
Yeah. The Model Context Protocol, or MCP.
MCP, right.
Think of it like a USB-C port, but for AI.
Yeah.
It's meant to be an open standard way for AI models to connect and exchange information with external tools and data sources.
Okay, like a universal adapter, so different things can plug in and talk the same language.
Exactly. It standardizes how that data flows back and forth, which is, essential for making these integrations work reliably.
And the big example they highlighted was Zapier, right?
Yes, Zapier is huge because it connects to thousands of different apps.
Right, it's like the glue for the internet.
Pretty much. So, by connecting Claude to Zapier, you unlock a massive range of possibilities.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so you can ask Claude, hey, pull the latest sales figures from our HubSpot CRM.
Uh-huh.
Or summarize the key action items from my meetings this week based on my Google Calendar.
Okay, wow.
And then, based on that info, Claude could maybe draft emails, update project management tools, save files, trigger actions in those other apps, all from within the Claude interface.
So Claude becomes like an AI command center for your work.
Potentially, yeah. For managing a lot of those routine cross-app tasks, it could really streamline things.
Now, the article mentioned there was an earlier attempt at this, like a desktop app that was a bit buggy.
Yeah, apparently so. This new integrations feature seems to be the more robust, officially supported version.
Right.
It's currently on their Max, Team, and Enterprise plans. They said it's coming soon to the Pro plan as well.
Okay, so getting rolled out. It definitely sounds like a big step towards making AI more practically useful in our actual daily work.
Agreed. It moves beyond just chat.
Okay, let's switch gears again. Something a bit different, but also really practical for anyone using these models. Prompt engineering, but beyond just the words, we're talking temperature.
Yes, temperature. It's one of those settings that's often overlooked, but it can make a huge difference.
Right. We spend ages crafting the perfect prompt.
Exactly. But there's one little slider. So basically, temperature controls the randomness or maybe predictability of the AI's response.
Okay. How does that work? It's usually a scale, right?
Yeah, typically 0 to 2, though sometimes it's 0 to 1. But let's say 0 to 2, with 1 often being the default.
So what happens at the low end, near 0?
Okay, so closer to 0, the AI picks the most statistically likely word at each step in generating its response. Meaning the output is usually very focused, clear, quite predictable. It sticks to the most common path. This is often really good for things like writing code, or technical documentation, or summarizing facts where you want accuracy and consistency.
Gotcha. So low temperature equals predictable and focused. What about near 1, the default?
Around 1, it starts to introduce a bit more variety. It considers a slightly wider range of possible words, not just the absolute most likely one.
Okay.
So the output can be a bit more creative, maybe more interesting, but also potentially less consistent from run to run. It's a balance.
And then what if you crank it way up towards 2?
Now you're letting the AI get really adventurous. Closer to 2 gives much more weight to less likely word choices.
So more random.
More random, yeah. You can get highly creative, sometimes surprising, really novel outputs, but it also increases the chance of getting something weird or nonsensical or just completely off topic.
Because it's exploring the linguistic long tail, so to speak.
Exactly. It's taking more risks with its word choices. Because remember, these models work on probability predicting the next word. Higher temperature just makes those less probable words more likely to get picked.
Okay, that makes sense. And the article had that great example from the OpenAI playground.
Right. Using the same prompt, asking for unconventional strategies for a SaaS HR tech startup.
Yeah.
They ran it first with temperature 0.5, fairly low.
And the ideas were?
Pretty practical, pretty grounded. Things like partnering with niche influencers, integrating with specific industry tools, using outcome-based pricing. Solid, sensible ideas.
Okay. Standard playbook, maybe with a slight twist.
Exactly. Then they ran the exact same prompt but cranked the temperature up to 1.5.
What came out then?
Totally different vibe. Ideas like hyper-localized micro-product launches for specific cities or regions, and ecosystem partnership as a service model, even using incentives for data crowdsourcing from users. Much more out there stuff.
Wow, yeah. Definitely more unconventional. Less immediately obvious how you'd implement them, maybe.
Precisely. The higher temperature pushed the AI to make less obvious connections to generate more novel concepts. It really shows how much control you have beyond just the words.
So the takeaway is, know what you want. High temp for brainstorming, maybe? Low temp for reports or code?
That's a good rule of thumb. High for creativity, exploring possibilities. Low for clarity, accuracy, structured formats. And maybe something in the middle, like the article suggested, around 0.7 for a balance of, coherence and a bit of creativity.
That's a really useful tip. It's another lever you can pull. Okay, last topic for today. AI video generation. Quashu Technologies Kling 2.0 master model. Sounds impressive.
It does seem like a significant step forward. Kling
yeah.
for master. Yeah. The big claims are higher video quality. They're saying 1080p resolution.
Okay, HD.
Right. And supposedly much better control over motion within the video, how things move realistically.
Yeah.
And crucially, better adherence to the actual prompt, following instructions more closely.
That last one feels key. So many AI videos kind of wander off.
Exactly. So they tested it with a pretty detailed prompt, didn't they?
Yeah, it was something like, a group of friends in bright orange life jackets and helmets paddle vigorously through churning whitewater rapids. And it went on about, camera angles, close-ups on faces showing excitement and determination, dramatic lighting. Quite specific.
Very specific. And how did Kling 2.0 Master handle it?
Well, the report said it wasn't perfect, still limitations. But the overall take was that it showed noticeable improvement. It did a better job capturing the scene described in the prompt compared to previous versions.
Okay, so progress. And they compared it directly to Kling 1.6 and OpenAI's Sora 2.
Yeah, same prompt for all three. What was the difference?
The main point highlighted was that Kling 2.0 Master seemed noticeably better at sticking to the prompt details and avoiding just random weird elements popping into the video. Compared to both its predecessor, 1.6, and Sora, it apparently generated a video that more accurately reflected that complex request. Still not perfect, but a clearer step ahead in prompt fidelity.
Interesting. It's moving fast, this video stuff. They did mention Kling 2.0 Master isn't available on free accounts, though.
That's right. Suggests it's a more premium, resource-intensive model.
Yeah.
But the main takeaway is we're seeing real, tangible progress in AI generating higher quality video with better motion control and, importantly, better alignment with what users actually ask for.
Well, this has been a really good run-through of some key points from issue #6 of Thinking in Public.
Yeah, covered a lot of ground.
We looked at AI values and how they show up in Claude, those new integration features making AI more of a workflow tool.
Right, the Zapier connection and MCP.
The surprising impact of that temperature setting on AI responses.
Don't forget the temperature slider.
Definitely not. And the latest advancements in AI video with Kling 2.0. So hopefully this chat gave you a clear, kind of engaging overview of some of the main currents in AI right now based on that issue.
Yeah, trying to pull out the important bits.
So here's a thought to leave you with, maybe. As AI gets woven more tightly into our everyday tools, through integrations, and even starts handling creative stuff like video, how is that going to change our own understanding of things like value or connection or even what creativity itself means?
That's a big question.
It is. Definitely something to think about as these tools evolve. Anyway, thanks for joining us for this discussion.